Basically, round two starts today. Said for many years, round two is the best day of games. You always get so many great games because after this, we just get less games, which is not good. But love the Saturday games. Saturday games are great. Wish they'd start the Sunday ones earlier, so we're not until midnight for Monday's work. But hey, what are we gonna do? Used to be the end of them at 6 o'clock, but these days everything's about that dollar, so it doesn't work like that. But a couple of nuggets from tournament here and telling, like it is Dave Scholl, by the way, NCAA Tournament March Madness update. Get these nuggets here and nowhere else. Just watching the games, every game, by the way. Big 12, 6-0. ACC, which all you clowns out there said was down this year, 5-1. Beat a Little East team, beat a Little 10 team, 5-1. Rosie's in the studio, by the way. She's on her bed over here, looking for a bigger contract. Big 10, 7-3. Pac-12, 2-1. Big East, 3-3. SEC, 3-3. American, 2-0. A-10, 1-1. West Coast, 2-1. Mountain West, 0-5. Those are the bigger conferences. But hey, 6-0. It's good to see Jamie Dixon back and get a win. A couple of things in the personnel department here. Florida with a really quick hire. A guy loses a game and is hired within like 12 hours. Makes me a little suspicious of how quick that took place. And I wish Coach Golden luck, but that's a really quick hire. Makes you wonder what was going on behind there to be done with that in 12 hours. And I know you could say it's hokey, but I hate to see that when you let the loss in the season marinate a little bit. And but it's not about that anymore. It's about basically getting on to the next job, and then we wonder why the kids want to transfer. But I don't know. That's a quick hire for me. I talked to some Florida alums who follow sports very importantly and at a very high level, and they even felt it was a very quick hire. And there were some better choices out there, like see Anthony Grant get that gig, but didn't get it. But just a couple of things about the fan bases out there who are just insane. Twitter and social media and everything else has brought out the pure insanity of fans, and with the FanDuel and this gambling and all the other stuff, you can understand why people just have such vitriol towards these coaches and the players and the fantasy sports and everything else, and the NFL fantasy sports and the Red Zone channel. It's become an industry where what can these players and what can these coaches do for you money-wise? Instead of just being a fan, like if I'm a fan of Memphis, I'm a fan of Iowa, it's not about that anymore. Now it's about what can they do for me and what can they do for my wallet. And when they don't, they're garbage, and hatred and vitriol is just spewed towards these people. It's incredible. Just some examples. So before John Calipari at Kentucky, we had Billy Gillespie, who was just a nightmare at the university. Good coach, but just not ready for Kentucky, which is, I think, the toughest fan base in the country. They feel that they should win every night just because they're Kentucky, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. People don't realize if they had Frederick, they'd probably win that game the other day. I guess the one thing I thought they'd be missing all year was great shooting. Kentucky, though, 365 and 101 since Calipari got there. Been to a couple of Final Fours, won a national title. This year, he tried to go with some veterans and transfer. 340 guys in the transfer portal this year for the NCAA, and I think 30 of them went back to their school where they're from. Basically, the other 390 basically went to a different school. So again, this is an oldest tournament we've seen in quite some time. And what we mean by that is veteran guards. And so the freshman impact is very strong, but at the same time, these veteran guards are very tough to handle. They've been through the wars, and they understand what it's about. But so the Kentucky fans, want Cal out, and some of the fans, but not all the fans. So for you good fans out there, I apologize, but Kentucky wasn't even relevant again when Gillespie was there. So here we are, 365 and 101. You can tell people said that I've never competed or coached at a high level in their life, because if you win in more than 3 out of every 4 games, you're a hell of a coach in any level. But again, if you never competed and you live in a fantasy land and you think just because your school is bigger, now should you beat St. Peter's? Yeah, probably should have forced the ball into the big fella. They didn't do that. They stood around, but they looked like crap versus Tennessee the weekend before. So you can't say you're shocked when that game was close. But it's just one of those situations. Iowa fans. Now, Iowa was really irrelevant. I have a good buddy who went to Iowa. My man Sean out there, shout out to him. 242 and 162 since McCaffrey got there. And they're upset because they had Garza there and they lost in the second round. And then we had Murray there today and the other day and we lost. And that was a bad game, but they didn't shoot well. Guys, when you don't shoot well, I don't care what the hell the coach does. When you're shooting about 34% clip for a game, very hard to win, especially a 3-point shooting team that averages over 80 a game. They even shoot 40%, they win the game. Richmond did a great job. And it's an upset. But again, we're not talking about Richmond's not from the Sisters of the Poor. He is an A10 team. It's an A10 team who just won the A10 tournament. This is a good basketball team. Richmond's been a program that's plucked off many a giant over the years. And when Iowa finished great, and what we talked about, it's 50-50 with how you finish. You can finish poorly and do well. You can finish great and do poorly. We've seen it for many, many years. You get those extra set of games on your legs, and Iowa just did not look good. You win Sunday night. You're taking all your bows, late congratulations. Sunday evening, you find out where you're going. You got to get there by Wednesday. Legs are flat. You're missing your jump shot. If you look at the shooting numbers in this tournament, very low. Most of the shooting numbers below 45% in this tournament so far. And it's weird because, the bigger schools, the Power 5 conference schools have all played in these big buildings already, but yet something's going on there. It's just a lot of poor shooting you see in this tournament. And again, a lot of people, the end of games just don't know how to handle press offense. I mean, Miami single-handedly almost gave that game away yesterday, and when they had that game lock, stop, barrel, and they were ready to go. So Coach McCaffrey's brought them back to relevance, but again, the Iowa fan base, just brutal. Where was Iowa basketball before that? Speaking of that, Alabama basketball, Coach Oates, 61-36. Now they did have a bad end to their season. There's no doubt about it. But then again, yesterday, first 3 minutes of the game, Quinerly hurts his leg. Tough doing without your point guard. And again, I always hate to see the injuries this year, going way back to even 1999 when Kenya Martin, breaks his leg, and just stuff like that just drives you crazy. You wish these teams would all be healthy, and they're just not. So, but today's games, we got Gonzaga and Memphis at 9:40 tonight. Big exciting game. Memphis played really well the other day, but Gonzaga played streaky at best. It's going to be a better game than people think. I would say that it's going to be a fun game, but I would say that I still would think Gonzaga would win this game. But a really interesting game for today is the Mexico State and Arkansas. And Mexico State was very impressive. Arkansas very impressive. I had them in my knockout pool, and they delivered for me. This is a toss-up game because Arkansas, I think, under the wire team right there, not really getting the respect they deserve. Some other games as we see on the screen for today. We go Michigan, Tennessee here. What a great game. Backup point guard played great for Michigan. Tennessee has played a very good game the other day, probably one of the most solid teams in the first round here. Coach Howard back, getting his guys inspired the other day. Colorado State gets out to a big lead, but then Dickinson just too much for the bigs of Colorado State inside. And but Tennessee, good game also. So we'll see how this game goes. The tempo is going to be a lot of fun. See that it's a lot of good big guys back in the tournament this year. That's good to see. Always like to see the post players. So Michigan, Tennessee is 5:15 on Saturday. A little CBS matchup. All right. Then Mexico State, Arkansas game is on TNT, and the Gonzaga game will be on TBS. Another Saturday game today. Got Baylor, North Carolina tips it off today. And I tell you what, a lot of the Carolina bandwagon jumpers said they were going to be out, but I like their bracket. Marquette has been spotty. Shaka Smart struggles in this tournament, except for he had one little good run there. But North Carolina, they're in a good bracket. I mean, Baylor's missing their leading scorer from the season. He's been out since January. They're still playing well, but Carolina is very large also. The trick here, though, is the knock on Carolina all year has been, are they going to play hard? And I'll tell you what, Baylor might be the worst team in the country if you're not going to play hard that you would face, because Baylor plays hard every second of every day. The defensive clamping that goes down on the guards and the opposing teams by Baylor is very important, but they got to deal with Baycott in the top. The only thing about Carolina you worry about is their lack of depth, and Baylor plays that pace. The good news is Carolina had a blowout the other day versus Marquette, and they did get some other guys in, so they probably have a little more legs than if they had a white knuckler, which would mean that it was a close game, but they didn't do that, so hopefully they got enough guys enough rest. Should be interesting. But I I don't know that Baylor Carolina game as a toss up. I know it's a 1-8 game, but this is North Carolina. This isn't, an 18 from mid-level conference. So whenever you see a big time school in the 8 or 9 game, the ones get a little nervous. The hair on the arm stands up. But again, if you got to play hard, we'll see how the guards handle it. We'll see how Black and Love and all these other guys and Davis handle the ball against Baylor's pressure. St. Mary's UCLA, great game coming up. St. Mary's is not a regular team here. St. Mary's very, very, very impressive. 7-10 on TBS. UCLA had a great run last year. Mick Cronin's teams always play hard, always play defense. Really happy for him. Finally get some recognition his last 2 years. But St. Mary's UCLA game, definitely a toss-up. We'll see where that one goes. Kansas, Creighton, you feel bad again. Talk about the injury bug. Creighton banged up here. Missing one of their best big guys, if not the best big guy they have. And against Kansas doesn't need any help in that department. You would think that Kansas would have a big advantage here at 240 on CBS, but give Creighton a puncher's chance. To me, one of the great games of the day, Richmond Providence. That Providence team is an excellent team, but they do play a lot of close games. They did do a great job the other day versus South Dakota State when everybody was picking South Dakota State. If you're in a bracket where upsets are rewarded, then you picked South Dakota State. One of the pools I was in, South Dakota State is definitely was rewarding with that 13. So you pick them. But Providence is really the better team, obviously. But Richmond and Providence, Richmond was great versus Iowa, obviously, as we talked about. Providence, again, they played really well the other day. Pretty solid. This should be a fun game. 6-10 Saturday. Obviously, this tonight on TNT. Fun matchup. Should be a great day of games here. And the other Saturday game, Murray State versus St. Peter's in the knockout pool. I might go Murray State here. I love St. Peter's. I love Shaheen Holloway. He was a great player at Seton Hall. Always played really hard. But Murray State again, 31-2. And I think they would have given Kentucky a battle either way. So now they get to play St. Peter's. I'm sure in the knockout pool today, there'll be a lot of people on Murray State, and rightfully so. I think that they're going to be very, very, very tough. So that'll be a fun game. We'll check in on Sunday's games here. Let's take a gander down the bracket here as we share the screen with you. Arizona TCU, great to see Coach Dixon back in the mix. He left Pitt. He's gotten done his alma mater here, and they're in a big game Sunday night, 9:40. Should be a fun game. Houston and Illinois. Illinois' guard play was not great yesterday, but Corbello here from Long Island had a plus 18. When you have a plus 18 and you win by a point, I think he needs to play a little more. He does make mistakes, but he makes things happen, and he is aggressive. Love his aggression. Notre Dame, Texas Tech. This game should be a blast. Texas Tech was pretty solid versus Montana State. Notre Dame, very impressive versus Alabama. But like I said, Alabama missing their top guard, but Notre Dame looked really good. There's a 7-10 matchup on TBS. Michigan State, Duke. Duke's lucky if they get out of this weekend alive. They played solid last night, but again, Cal State Fulton just looked nervous, man, dropping passes, throwing passes at guys' ankles. I don't know if that was as much Cal State Fulton as it was Duke. I mean, Michigan State, not the overly talented team here, but they will play hard. It's Tom Izzo's team. Coach K versus Tom Izzo, 13-3. Coach K versus Tom Izzo, but that's a story for another day. That doesn't matter tomorrow night. Ohio State, Villanova. Again, I think Villanova in a good spot here. Ohio State did some positive things, but they did struggle. Loyola shooting. Loyola had the worst shooting game, I think, in the history of the NCAA tournament. Below 30%, below 33% from the field, from three, and from the foul line. So that's something that you don't see too often. Get those little nuggets here and tell them like it is, and nowhere else where you just have talking heads with slick back here who don't know crap about basketball. That's not the case here. So we have a situation here on Sunday where we also have some other good games here. We got Iowa State, Wisconsin. Iowa State, very impressive last night. Wisconsin down to the wire, basically, with Colgate. Wisconsin can put you to sleep, but I don't know. I still think Wisconsin's in a solid place, but Iowa State really shoots the ball. They're not really afraid. They can be aggressive. Purdue, Texas. I don't know. What a great game this is going to be. Texas, Coach Beard, great defensive work yesterday versus Virginia Tech. They had those veteran guards turning the ball over at midcourt, not deep into the timeline, not deep into the 5-second line. You have a little hash, having them throwing the ball into the table at midcourt. And when you got veteran guards out there, like, we got Storm. I mean, you got Kalor out there. I mean, forget it. These guys were tough guards for Virginia Tech, and yet Texas just wore them down with their pressure defense. And I tell you, I don't think Texas is an overly talented team, but they really get after it. I love Ivy for Purdue yesterday. Very solid performance versus a very good Yale team. So solid stuff here. That's going to be a great game at 8:40 tomorrow night. And then, of course, the biggest game probably of the weekend for me as far as fun, Miami and Auburn is going to be a lot of fun. Auburn looked very solid. Miami, it was a great game with USC. Miami almost gave it away late, but those four guards and a long forward playing at the five there. Good basketball. Wong fouls out with a couple of minutes left. Such a great player. But then McGusty comes out and gets a couple of big shots, and Moore hit a couple of big shots, and then away we go. So should be a lot of fun. Some great games here. We'll be back on Monday with a little podcast about the Sweet 16 here on Telling Like It Is. Really excited about it.